coaching and preparation are what led to the Gators' downfall in the secondary, Coach Jim McElwain says. As Vanderbilt receivers continued to pop open in the swamp last Saturday, some natural assumptions were being made. 1. With all those freshmen playing, youth is finally catching up to the Florida Gators in the secondary. 2. The linebackers are solid against the run, but do not appear to have the same grasp when it comes to covering receivers, especially on those crossing routes. 3. Quarterback Kyle Shurmur and his receivers are a whole lot better than they showed in a 59-0 loss to number 1 Alabama the week before. All three of those things were contributing factors, but they were not the main factor. That distinction belongs to something else. Coaching and preparation are what led to the Gators' downfall in the secondary, according to Coach Jim McElwain. 3. Vanderbilt did a good job with their plan, McElwain said. Obviously, offensive coordinator Andy Ludwig does an outstanding job. Have known him a long time. They found some weaknesses. They did a good job isolating their little option route on our linebackers. I don't think we did a great job in the film study piece with what our defensive staff gave our guys. Some of the clues immediately based on formation, I'm not sure we did a great job communicating that. They took advantage of it. They did a really good job of that, and we're going to have to get that cleaned up this week. It was alarming how open the Vandy receivers were getting at times. On Shurmur's 3 touchdown passes, the receivers, Kalijah Lipscomb, Caleb Scott and Nathan Marcus, were all alone in the end zone each time. Shurmur was especially efficient throwing the ball down the middle of the field, where there were some obvious holes in the coverage. Shurmur completed less than 50% of his passes, 18 of 40, but threw for 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. Here's a good indication of how I've struggled in the secondary. The Gators gave up receptions of 21, 24, 28, 28 and 35 yards. The Gators certainly didn't go into the game anticipating Shurmur would put it up 40 times. They were expecting the Commodores to pound the ball in the running game with tailback Ralph Webb, the school's all-time leading rusher who grew up in Gainesville and stared at Gainesville High. That has been Vandy's offensive identity, and that's what the Gators prepared for. It was not the Vandy offense they got. Vanderbilt is usually a running team, middle linebacker David Reese said. They didn't really run the ball the whole game. They really just passed the whole game. So it was a switch up, and it wasn't really what we expected. Once it became obvious the Commodores were going to attack primarily through the air, the defense still had problems covering up receivers and making plays in pass defense. Senior cornerback Duke Dawson said some of those wide-open receivers can be attributed to communication breakdowns, which can be a problem in a young secondary that starts 1 true freshman and plays 2 or 3 others. Just everyone getting the call, Dawson said. That's the biggest challenge we have. It was just errors in communication, Reese said. Nothing that we can't fix. Whatever needs fixing in the secondary, the Gators need to get it done this week in practice. Because the next test, LSU, is going to be even tougher. The Tigers are another team that likes to rely on a power running game, but after watching the tape of Florida's performance last week, it's almost a certainty that LSU will try to exploit a shaky secondary. For us, it's about understanding the preparation and what needs to happen, McElwain said. Didn't think we played particularly well, obviously, in the pass defense piece. And yet, they might have caught us off guard, a little bit out of Vandy's wheelhouse, or what they had shown. They kind of abandoned the run a little bit and really went to exposing us in the secondary. We're going to have to get that short up, and the communication piece has got to be really good. And our tackling has to be spot on this week.